Hi, friends. It's Tammy again. And I'm just going to give this a few minutes, a few moments to let you arrive and to begin just connecting in with all of you. So, Facebook takes a minute just to kind of do its thing. This is my second live now. I'm going to do one every day. Today, yesterday, tomorrow, possibly for the whole next week because Unleashed, I'm opening it tomorrow, but I'm keeping it open for a week. So I just want to make sure you all know more about what that's about. And anyway, I want to share. So the title for this, what I wanted to talk about today, really, what I want to speak into is the way that everything can change very rapidly. And often we think of that as a bad thing, especially right now. I think it can be easy to assume that things are hard and they're just going to get harder. That's a story we hear a lot. That's an assumption that's made often now, and I recognize that part of that is a an acknowledgement and a reckoning of the deep work that's needing to be done, the soul work that's needing to be done. I acknowledge that there is a profound need for us to acknowledge um, massive issues that are facing us collectively as a species. And I would begin that with climate change and what we're doing to our vital ecosystems. I would speak into that in terms of what's happening here in the US with the rise of a fascist state, a white supremacist state that's becoming bolder and bolder. So I'm going to speak into those things. And I want to say simultaneous to that, and the next breath to that, is that when we can actually acknowledge what's actually happening, the darkest shadow, what's happening, and we can also acknowledge that each one of us are here to bring something new into the field and to be a solution to that crisis, each in our own way, that something powerful and potent can happen in that moment. I believe there's so much that we each individually can do to bring a new narrative into the field. So I was just having an experience yesterday I'm going to share. And this is a little difficult to share because it's not something I would usually acknowledge or speak into. But I was just, I was having some really, really hard days, like many of us, and it was feeling incredibly heavy. And sometimes, I struggle with depression and anxiety, like many of us. And so I was just having this recognition. I listened to this talk someone was giving, and something she said kind of blew me away. And what she said was that it was kind of a testimonial about this woman's healing work. And she said, after I received this healing, the next morning I woke up and I felt happy. And I've never felt that way before. And yesterday, early afternoon, when I heard that, I just started weeping because I realized that that's been true for me for a very long time as well. And once that pattern sets in, where it feels very difficult to wake up in the morning with a sense of joy and a sense of looking forward to the day, we can forget that we've ever had times in our lives where we woke up with that experience of joy, of lightheartedness, of looking forward to the future. So I had been distancing, I distance myself from my love and from my own self, from my own heart when I go into those dark places. And when I listened to this, I just sat with that for a minute. I just sat with the sadness of that. I just realized and recognized that as much as I have blessing in my life, as much as I have beauty in my life, there's something that's so difficult about seeing the blessing and the beauty around me and yet knowing I cannot feel that in my heart. I can't feel joy. I can't feel happiness. And there were a couple things about that. One is that I've been reading the book My Grandmother's Hands by Resme Menachem, and really wrestling with what my place is in my role in trying to accomplish and help accomplish cultural healing, racial healing in this country, in my life, in my field. And as I'm reading this book, I was starting to feel some hopefulness. Because what I've been thinking and feeling more and more and more is that the many of us, particularly I feel often many of us as white spiritual women, um, like myself, we might wrestle a lot with anxiety and depression and not know how to navigate that. And I do think that becoming an active part of the healing process if we're in the US, in this country, if we're somewhere else, wherever we are, to become part of the healing process and addressing the deep rooted white supremacy that permeates our system, it hurts our souls. That actually is going to break us open into experiencing joy again. Because this soul sickness that we're all living within, we can't feel fully alive and joyful and happy when we see our sisters and brothers of color. We see those who are most vulnerable around us continuing to be most affected and devastated by the system we live within. That vicarious trauma is too much for our souls to bear. It's absolutely essential for us to take our place in creating something new and different. And that's going to look different for each one of us. So that was a feeling of hope and hopefulness that was breaking into my heart, because part of this reason I don't wake up feeling happy is because, like many of you listening, I'm sleepless often, many nights, because I feel and I see and I hear and I know what's happening around me in the world, and I'm speaking into the pain, and I'm speaking into the very real danger nationally on the political stage. And I think also it's a battle for consciousness. It's a battle. This is something Lee Harris had said in one of his recent programs, that we are actually facing a battle of consciousness where we must be warriors, spiritual warriors, to maintain our center and our ground and our humanity and our hearts staying centered and focused on the world we want to create around us. And so it's for us to be fully grounded and present and bringing our own vision and our own healing actions into the world, however that looks and feels for each of us. So it's been difficult to wake up feeling joyful and happy. But I told Talon that. I told my love that I admitted to him that I have not woken in the morning feeling joyful, feeling hopeful, for a very long time. I'd forgotten what that felt like, and I felt like there's something deeply wrong with me. And you know what he said was, he said, no, it's not. He reflected back to me, he said, you have so much of what everyone would want. You have created for yourself a life of freedom. I can live wherever I want. Not that that's been something for me, is to ask, where is my true home? Is it here in Missouri? Is it somewhere else? I think many of us are asking that question, but I have so much of what many would want. I have freedom from the constraints of a 9-to-5 job. I am incredibly privileged to have that. And yet he said, you're still unhappy at a deep level. And he said, it must be systemic. It's about the system we're part of. There's something about it. And I agree. I agree. And I agree also that I feel also that it has to do with me needing to take action and continuing to take action. And, I just wanted to read something in terms of everything can change. So I spoke that to Talon. I told him how I was feeling. I admitted it. I admitted that I hadn't felt happy for a very long time. And we really spoke into that. And what I think and what he thinks, what we both believe is, that's not okay. I say that for myself because I know I'm not the only one. I know that here in the US, for many of us right now, that is the experience for many. And that is not a healthy way of being. It's not a healthy culture. And it's a cognitive dissonance that's alive and present in me all the time. And I have so much at my disposal, so many tools. It's not okay in our culture and our personal lives to have the experience of joy and happiness be a rare thing. It's something that we have to consciously choose differently. And first of all, for me, it was just a being honest, being really honest. Thanks, Christina. I'm so glad to see you. And so just admitting that, confessing that reality and feeling some shame around it. Mirror, self-value, going through similar. Much love and hugs. I appreciate that, Christina. It's good to see you and feel you. So So, but just speaking into it and crying about it and being witnessed in that and being held and presenced in that, I'm so grateful to Talon for that. And something shifted inside of me. Something shifted yesterday. And I want to read something as well that's very similar from a beautiful neighbor, a woman I really deeply admire who lives near me here in the Missouri River watershed. She is an advocate and activist who loves this beautiful land. And for many years, she's worked with the Department of Natural Resources and in other places to help protect this earth. And she most recently has been very active in engaging neighbors in fighting the potential presence of confined animal feeding operations in our community. So she's been really active in letting people know that these big corporations are wanting to come into our rural community to be able to have these big cattle farms and chicken farms that have very minimal regulations that could harm our earth and our waters. And so she's a person I really deeply admire, and she recently told me about a health crisis that she's facing that is very significant. And when we spoke, when we spoke recently, she's been very dark. She's been feeling really hopeless about her situation. And I've, in speaking with her and speaking with so many others in my world, just like all of your worlds, there are many of us. There are a lot of people that have passed in my life and in the lives of those I love over the past months. Many people are struggling economically. There are all these issues. And, this friend, this woman, was another, and so after a while, it's just because we care about each other, it's just too much. So she was telling me about just how difficult it is. And I was having my usual struggle of how do I just bear witness and listen and be there and not want to change or fix it, because what she's going through is very real. And so I was just trying to be with it, but I was feeling a little heavy and doing a not so healthy thing of, I think, taking some of that on, which isn't helpful or necessary, in a way that was just an old pattern. Then the next morning, I get a message from her, and she said, I'm feeling an incredible shift of energy just this morning. All the blockages of the past week seeming to be falling away. It's so interesting. And I can't even tell you, because I woke up that morning again, just feeling the weight of the world. I read this text from her, this simple little text, and a little light came on inside of me. It was like, oh my gosh, like even in the most difficult experiences people are having, and this is for us collectively, everything can change in a morning. Everything can change in a moment. And so I just want to encourage each of you to understand, if you're in a dark place, just to send you so much love and to support you in coming into those places where you can just acknowledge it. Acknowledge the darkness of it. If you haven't felt joy for years, if you've never woken up in the morning with a profound sense of joy and happiness, looking forward to your day, feeling that at home in your body and your life, there are many of us in our current reality who have not had that experience for a very long time. And it's something to be able to speak into and to grieve and to feel the sadness of that. That is a recognition that is an opening point to something more beautiful and more, that is grief. That's grief. So Kimberly and Starlight, I can't even, I've been feeling so much New Mexico energy lately. I'm so glad that you're on. It's so good to see you and to remember your beautiful faces and spirits. So, this message today, I wasn't planning to be on for very long. And it's just a little love note for you. And so just going to complete, though, by saying that I am offering a course, and the title of it is Unleashed. And what that has to do with, in terms of what I'm speaking to today, is that the energies of right now are such that when we take constructive action to claim our place in the world, to say, I have a right to be here. And I know that if I myself and if many around me are choosing to be real, to be present, to come home, to choose to just remain here and be here fully present, then we can affect massive change in the world around us. So I'll just say I've been taking some constructive actions, and I'm going to lay them out. So yesterday, what I did was I'd been, I was really honest about where I was at, and how difficult that's been. And I was able to communicate that, something that I sometimes have challenges with. And then I did a hard thing that I'd been really struggling with, which was, again, to do a live feed and to continue to share about this course. And I just, for many of us, it's that block about taking action. We can go into paralysis and frozenness. And I want to encourage you all to just take one action, to break through and do one of those hard things that you need to do, and you'll feel better on the other side. It could be a little tiny thing. It could be making your bed, but those kinds of actions have momentum. And so in this Unleashed program, it's a supportive container where we can all come together and really begin to focus in on something that's in our hearts to create. And it's within a real focused window of time. November 13th, 14th is when we're each going to unleash something. That's when Mars stations direct and Jupiter and Pluto are conjunct in Capricorn. And so we're going to be just steadily creating a field of possibility, doing our exploration, planting little seeds, hand in hand with each other as a support, celebrating each other as we move along, and recognizing that even though so much in the culture around us is telling us that, especially here in the US, things are bad and they're only going to get worse, I want to challenge that. Things have been bad. Things have been incredible, and things have been bad and on the level in this world, in this nation, that there are some foundations that have been rotten to the core, and our brothers and sisters of color see that. They know that. Those of us who have really been at the lowest rungs economically for various reasons, some of which are because there are some individuals who simply have seen such poison in the larger culture that they're unwilling to engage with the culture as it is. And I want to just honor that as also that resistance as a natural thing to do when the culture has a lot of toxicity. But I also want to honor that there's so much beauty, there's so much potency, there's so much power, there's so much that is well here in the US. I want to just honor that. The foundations of our culture are needing deep restructuring. And it's important to remember that part of why we're seeing and feeling this in such a way right now is because we've done sufficient healing collectively to be able to have the capacity to see who's been hurting around us. So I just want to I'll share more tomorrow too, but Unleashed is a container for each of us to personally do our work to create a field around ourselves that feels more positive, more potent, more actional, more building our capacity to bring more of ourselves into the world. And also, like I'd said, I just began to point out what I'd done over the last couple of days. One is to acknowledge the depths of my sorrow and my grief and my numbness, the cost of that, and then to share that in a really authentic way. And from that, it kind of created an opening in me. The other piece was that I've been doing what I said I wanted to do, and I've felt this kind of moral, I'm going to use the word moral imperative, to continue to look at what's difficult around white supremacy in this country. I've been reading about it. I've been asking myself, what place can I play in that? That is part of Unleashed. That is part of what I want to plant in terms of the seeds for the 13th and the 14th. I just don't think that we can be these little isolated beings anymore who don't consider ourselves as part of this larger whole. And I think it's far more joyful to be able to connect with the whole and ask, what is my little tiny part in that? What is my little tiny part in addressing what feels really often wrong around me? So I was reading those things, I was exploring those things, I asked for help, and I was vulnerable. And then I also took action. Once I just had barely enough of that ground, I took action to do the live feed yesterday, which I'd had a lot of resistance around. That was the hard thing. And then I began to implement a couple of other practices that I know work that I haven't been doing, which is gratitude. Last night I did a gratitude list. You know, that's so simple. But I just began to write, again, what am I grateful for? I haven't been able to do that for a while. I haven't felt it, but I just did it. So as soon as I got a foothold of feeling a little bit more in my heart, a little more at home in myself, a little safer in my nervous system, then I started just pulling myself out little bit by bit. Gratitude, I could finally do it again. You know, I took a walk this morning with my love, and we do that on the land often, but we sang to the morning sun, you know, the things we know. I meditated for 10 minutes. You know, and now I'm doing this live feed, and there were just a list. Oh, I made a to-do list last night. I highly recommend this. When you go to bed at night, if you want to sleep better, make your to-do list the night before. Anyway, these are kind of random, but this is part of what, in a more structured way, we will be doing in Unleashed, as creating, you know, really asking, what do I need in terms of a supportive container in my personal life to feel resourced enough to begin to plant the seeds for a project or for something that I want to create in the world in the next 6 to 12 years. And then we're going to do something, each of us, to plant those seeds on the 13th. I'm going to create a summit that is going to be unleashed then. And you're all welcome. And if you feel under-resourced to take this course, but you feel incredibly moved that you want to be part of it, let me know. Email me, contact me. I don't want resources to be a limit. I, however, will expect that there be some kind of a pay it forward. You know, maybe it is because your project is bringing something into the world. So I offer that as a possibility. I do want to challenge you to consider, you know, if you can or can't really afford it. And if you can't financially, again, just really sit with it and ask, is this something I really deeply want to do? If you do, reach out to me. And also, it could be that me giving you these dates and these time frames, that can be supportive as well. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it there and just send you so much love. And I hope to see you in Unleashed. It starts tomorrow. And I'm going to keep it open for another week. And you'll see in the link below that there's a little more information there. So I'm just sending you so much love. And wherever you're at today, whether you're in the down cycle or the up cycle, just honoring your path. And I just send you so much love.